Have you noticed how some people turn everything they touch into opportunity? In today's episode, Adam Torres shares how every just for fun idea, from comic books to gratitude live streams, became a way to serve more people and build Mission Matters into a global media platform. This is the Your Next Success podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Carolyn Sangal. I am a life-first career coach and strategist on a mission to normalize questioning your career, because I believe each of us is made on purpose for a purpose only we can fulfill. The longer we live out of alignment with who we are, what we do best, and why we are here, the more we miss out, and the more the world misses out on what only we can give. The Your Next Success podcast is where we explore how to build a career that truly fuels your life. We talk about self-discovery, smart job search strategies, professional growth, and you will hear stories from people who have navigated big career transitions themselves, so you can create a life-first career and become your own version of authentic success. Today's guest has a gift for turning curiosity into opportunity. Adam Torres is the co-founder of Mission Matters and host of the Mission Matters series of shows. Ranked in the top 2.5% of podcasts globally, he has conducted more than 6,000 interviews and built a media, branding, and book publishing agency dedicated to amplifying the voices of entrepreneurs, entertainers, executives, and experts. Before Mission Matters, Adam spent over 14 years in financial services, serving more than 1,000 business owners and 3,000 high-net-worth families, and managing relationships for over 400 families with a cumulative net worth above $500 million. He is an international speaker, a multi-book author on business and investing, and his insights have been featured in outlets like Forbes, Yahoo Finance, Fox Business, and CBS. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the story behind the media company, the mindset behind the mission, and the lens that shapes how Adam sees business, money, and impact. In this episode, you'll hear how Adam's childhood shaped his drive and view of money, the pattern of this started as fun and turned into business that keeps following him, the story of how a flooded office and ruined certificates became his sign to leave finance, why he believes media and storytelling are one of the most powerful ways to serve others, and how Mission Matters grew into podcasts, books, PR, and events by simply listening to what people asked for. If you're someone who has always seen the world a little differently, or you feel a pull towards something bigger than your current role, this episode will help you trust that and step more fully into your own mission. Welcome, Adam, to Your Next Success. I have been looking forward to this conversation for weeks now. So thank you so much for being a guest.
Oh, Carolyn, I'm excited to be here and have some fun. Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's do it. Okay, we are going to get to all of the amazing work and huge mission-driven enterprise that you have now, extremely successful. We're going to get to that. We're teasing that. But I'd love to kind of dial it back, way back. Tell me about growing up. Where did you grow up? And then we're talking early childhood. What are the things that you really, really love to do?
Yeah. So I'll say that we're going way back, right? Well, first off, I'm from the southwest side of Detroit, Michigan. So I'll start there. So Midwesterner. I've been in LA now for 10 years or so. But so started this journey in Michigan. And I think even from a really young age, my mom and dad, they just kind of knew that I was going to be somewhat entrepreneurial. I just kind of understood and thought about business and money at a pretty young age. I still remember my first understanding of buying in bulk and buying gumballs. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. And I remember if you bought them one at a time, let's say it was 5 cents or something like that. But if you bought them in bulk, you had a deal. So I remember pretty early on in life, just kind of understanding money. Even at 5, 6 years old, I knew just how money works somehow. So
did they give you experiences to you're the one paying the bill or you're the one doing the thing? Or how did you get that?
You know, I know my very first job was ever?
Tell me.
Guess.
I mean, I know your job's later on, but like
folding socks, 5 cents a sock.
Nice. Ours was
So
$1 an A, 50 cents a B.
Oh no, that's the interesting part. That part wasn't rewarded, and it was like it was always something extra. That was just you had to do that. Like it, or it was
Interesting. And ours was
extra.
the other way. You had to do all of the chores and jobs and contributing, but the school stuff you could get. But
An
that
early one too was maybe writing. So I remember $1 a page for a book report, and that was over and above outside of school. That was just like my dad would take me to the library. We'd go get a book, and then I read it, write a book report. I get $1 a page.
Oh, that's awesome. And now
I became a pretty good reader because of that early on, like because I wanted that $1. And then I think at some point later on the book, I would just go for a thicker book. And then my dad say, well, wait a minute. This kid's making too much money on these things. Oh, does that count as a writing gig? Wow, yes. Since I was a teenager, I better update that bio.
Now, what did your parents do? Like, what was that work?
My mom was a social worker, so she was 40 plus years working with at-risk youth. So, I mean, the least of these is what she called them. And that was like unfortunate. She'd lose children that she worked with every summer, every year, like to the most horrific things you can think about. So it's things that people don't normally understand or know maybe always go on in this country. So she worked with at-risk youth. So really her entire career. My dad was an entrepreneur, I would say. He owned a small business. He painted cars, like high-end painting cars and stuff like that, like the high-end paint jobs and all that kind of stuff. That was his thing.
Like the designs and like what now is wraps, or like the really good stuff to make sure that there was no orange peel and all that?
Yeah, he was like a craftsman. He painted cars and he worked kind of when he wanted to. So like people would wait and they'd wait and they'd just show up at the house like, are you ready to start yet? And he couldn't get into a car because when he did, it had to be perfect. And he knew he was going to do it. He was going to do too much work and everybody else knew it too. And he was going to do more than he charged for. And he was going to just go further and further into the project. And he's a craftsman. He had a different like love for, that was his sport. Like it just had to be perfect. So if you could get him to do your car, then you would have something special.
I see. And did you have any siblings?
No, it's just me.
So you had this interest in, starting to have this interest in money, definitely in now you were a paid author. What else did you do for fun? Like, what did you do? What were those kind of things that fascinated you?
I talk about this with friends pretty often, and most things went around business, some way, shape, or form. I don't know. If you think about, so I can tell you everything started for fun, by the way. It didn't start with the idea of a business, but then it turned into a business somehow. So, the normal stuff, baseball cards, things like that, comic books, collected comic books. But then it began as fun and then it turned into a business. So then I began selling comic books. And I'll give you another example. Christmas, you know how kids get all these toys and stuff like this, right? Like when we're kids. So then I remember growing up like X-Men, like those figures, they were really popular. And I remember this is when I first learned about the concept of rarity and like what that meant and price and supply and demand. So I still remember my first supply and demand. And I think, geez, if somebody can call me out in the comments, but I think I haven't thought about these stories in ages, but I might have wrote a book where this story's in for some It's been a while, but that might be an earlier release. But I still do remember the story. That was my first supply and demand understanding as I'm at a comic book show and there's like a Wolverine, or it was Wolverine, or it might have been Star Wars. No, it was Wolverine, I'm pretty sure. And I'm asking the person, how much was it? And he said something like, let's call it $50 or whatever it was way back when. So that's really expensive. And then there was one right next to it that was like $5. And I'm like, well, why is that one $50 and why is the other one $5? And I remember understanding that he kind of explained, well, this one's rare. There's not that many of those. And I just kind of knew pretty early on, wow, so if you bought something and it was rare and it was old is what he said, it was old. So it was like a collector's item is what he explained, because this was released a long time ago and it was old. And so in the future, it's going to be worth even more. So I understood that. So then from that moment on, and I still have these, by the way, they're locked away in Michigan at a friend's house. But from that moment on during Christmas, I started asking for action figures and I never opened them.
Oh, you were one of those. How about Happy Meal
Never.
toys? Did you keep your Happy
I
Meal toys unopened?
oh
I
no,
tried to
well
keep
the
them for the longest, but
well, I don't know if you remember my candy example from earlier, but I had a stockpile of candy. So I give some candy, I get to play and break everybody else's toys, I go put mine away. So I still had a lot of fun.
yours were
I was
pristine and the
I
others
was
were to play with.
and I
Yeah.
still have them. They're still in the box. They're still like perfect.
And what are we waiting for you to like try to unearth them?
I'll tell you how random it is where my head was. And I still remember my mom saying, "Who is this kid? You're not my kid. What are you? I don't know, just old soul or whatever that is." I remember being a kid and my parents trying to, me explaining to them why I didn't open the toys. And I'm like, well, one day they're going to be worth money. And they're like, but when? I said, maybe in my lifetime, maybe not. Maybe my kids will benefit from them. I don't know. And I'm like 7 years old saying this. They're
I
like,
get it.
who is this kid, you weirdo? Freaking alien? Oh,
They
no.
knew you were destined for
Well,
greatness.
I don't know about the destined for greatness part, but I just saw the world differently. I feel like God gives people lenses to see a world in a certain way, and I just have a certain lens. That's all.
And so tell me about that. Like, when did God become part of your life? Was there a specific time that you remember, or was it? I think you've said before that you grew up Catholic. I'm Catholic. I grew
Yeah.
up, and for me, it just always was. So I'm
Yeah.
just curious: is that other
It's all,
people's experience,
I
or
don't, for me, it always was. It's just always been an ongoing conversation. I don't think it ever stopped, or I don't remember when it started. I just kind of always knew, and it always started. I think maybe probably when you start going to church, or for me, I'll speak for myself, when you start going to church like early, when you're young, I just kind of have memories sometimes of being there and this, and I just never knew anything else, honestly. I can't really relate, not no offense to anybody else watching this, but I just can't relate to somebody that doesn't see that part in their life because it's just always been part of mine.
yeah, I think I was given the opportunities and experiences to try to come to know, love, and serve. Do you have a specific early memory of something related to religion or church that kind of helped form you?
I don't know if it helped formed me or form me, but I will say one of my favorite memories would be going to like midnight mass and stuff like that during the holidays and like going there and trying to stay up so bad. Like,
You get the
gotta
candle,
stay up and
the fire
everything.
hazard candles, like, and children
Yeah.
got to hold them too with like the little paper
Oh,
thing
yeah. Oh, I remember
to
those.
catch the
Wow, I haven't
wax,
thought
right?
about that in ages. Yeah. I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
I know, I know. I think they're probably not safe anymore or something,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, and the
yeah,
smell of the incense, whatever that is, or frankincense, or I don't know what it's called,
yeah.
but
It's
yeah, the
it's good stuff.
smell.
Yeah,
I just remember that feeling being young and just feeling kind of like safe. I just remember always feeling safe in that environment.
yeah.
And so that was always a good feeling.
And so then, as you kind of like grew up a little bit, how about middle school and all that? What fascinated you? What kind of things did you get
So at
lost?
that point, which is kind of fun, is was coming around. And so music, I started becoming more aware, I believe, of music and what was going on around me. And around that time, and this story, I know where this one's at. This one is actually in a book that I have coming out in November, actually. It's coming out pretty soon, 1 billion podcasts.
I
And I
want that.
remember I'm giving them away too. So,
Oh,
in all sincerity, so I'll give you a copy, and everybody that's listening, I'll give a copy to. That's what we wrote them for, or what I wrote them for. But that being said, in this book, middle school is kind of interesting because that's when I started understanding, I'd say, wider lens and wider view of business. So around that time, Master P came out, who is, for everybody that's watching that doesn't know who that is, he's a famous rapper. And then also Cash Money Records came out, and that was another famous organization in hip hop music. And because I'm in Detroit, it's heavily influenced by hip hop music. So if you think about the demographics, heavily influenced. I remember for the first time ever seeing people on TV that were like people that I knew, like from my neighborhood. And the difference, though, was that, and for those of you that don't know their story, so Master P signed a huge distribution deal. It was something like $200-300 million. And this was unheard of back then, especially for urban music. And he really changed the entire face of what that looked like. And how did he do it? He did it from selling records out of his trunk. Impossible. Like, to think about what that even means, to change the entire music business by selling records out of the trunk of your car.
yeah.
That's something that I could relate to as a kid. And Cash Money, they did something very similar. And so how that influenced me was, I'm sitting there thinking like, wow, it opened my eyes to like what was possible in the world. Because again, I didn't come from somewhere nice. I still remember And I know this now that it wasn't normal. You don't know this when you're growing up, but I know this now that it wasn't normal. As I remember how police officers come and they give you your talk or whatever, they scare people and this and that. Well, in my school, it was probably a little different because the numbers were different in the area. And basically, I still remember in like sixth grade it might have been seventh grade or something. The officer comes in, he says, hey, look to your left, look to your right. And remember, we're seventh graders. And he's like, one of you will be dead and another one of you will be in jail before you're 21. And that's the actual numbers, by the way. He was right.
Wow.
So when you think about that, you're kind of living in fear when you understand what that means. And that's real numbers. And so you don't know what you don't know back then, that it was that bad in that area at that particular time. So you don't know. Like, you don't know. You think it's normal. I didn't know until I got to college. And I'm like, what? That isn't what you guys got at your middle school talk from a police officer? They're like, nah, Adam, nah. We didn't grow up there.
Well, that's interesting.
So from that, I was very aware is the point. And so I was always thinking about, after that, business got serious to me. I'm like, oh, wow, I got to make money. Money matters. And I have to, which is the title of my first book, by the way, I have to figure this thing out. So I took kind of some of those skills that my dad had, which was painting, and I had already been airbrushing, and then I started making clothes. So I would airbrush. So getting back to hip hop,
Cool.
one of my earliest shirts that was a hit, if you will, was like the Wu-Tang logo on a sweatshirt, because it was easy enough for me to do. People loved it. It was really popular. And it sold, and it was a lot of fun to see kids in school wearing my clothes. It was a lot of fun.
How did you sell it? How do people come to even know that you had it? Was it just talking to people word of mouth?
Well, I mean, we're kids. It's middle school. They're just my buddies, and it's I airbrush. They know what airbrushing is. During that time, that was very popular, and people would go to the mall all the time and wear airbrush clothes. So I'm like, hey, you got that Wu-Tang album? Look at that. Let me put that big old W on a sweatshirt for you. Bring a sweatshirt. And it grew, and it grew from there.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
And I'll tell you what became even funnier, getting called into the principal office and them asking hey, Adam, you can't be selling clothes at school. And I'm like, what do you mean? I have a big old knot of money in my pocket. I got $1,000 on me.
But of all the things you could sell at school, I think that's a good one.
Right. That's what I was thinking. That was what I was thinking. Wasn't hurting anybody. It was good.
Yeah.
I mean, Wu-Tang might not agree with the copyright. It's not like I probably owe them 7-year-old Adam might owe them a check, trademark infringement. No.
But we didn't worry about that then. Right?
Sorry, RZA.
Okay. So you have this entrepreneurial spirit and bringing in this artistic side, and you liked music. Now, did you play music, or you just loved listening to it?
It was part of the culture. That was it. It was everywhere. That was Tupac was out, Biggie was out. That's it. You couldn't go anywhere without that. Was like a lifeline for the inner city. Period. It was a lifeline. That's the first time that you'd see people that look like you on TV. It was just a lifeline. It's never happened in history.
And then who found out about that high school that you went to? How did you get to go there?
So it was actually across the street from my middle school. So my middle school, it was called UPS. I think it might still be around. It's called University Public School. It was Wayne State Charter School. And a fun fact, it was actually the very first charter school in the history of Michigan. So it's the first one ever. John Engler signed, I think he was the governor at that time. He signed the document that allowed it to happen. Wayne State University was kind of oversaw it, so the college, and it was the very first experiment of a charter school in Michigan, and that's where I went, and it was by lottery.
Oh, wow. And so who found out, your mom or your dad? Or because
Mama, I'm sure it had to be my mom, because she was involved in the community, remember? So she was the second, and this was after this point, by the way. I don't know where she was working at this point, but she was always involved in the community. And then years after that, let's call it, I don't know, 5 years or so after me being in middle school, so I was already a teenager. She was the second employee of Covenant House, Michigan, where she stayed basically the end of her career.
And what was Covenant House? What did they help to do?
So they're huge. So if you Google them, they have different mandates in different areas, but they're mainly working with at-risk youth, women, a lot of at-risk populations, and then every state's going to be a little bit different in what they do. But everything from housing to, it's a huge organization.
That's awesome to give so many needed services to the population that might not otherwise have access. So then you go to this really cool high school after going to an amazing
middle school. So you're already kind of being set apart. But even then in that middle school, they still had the look to your left, look to your right kind of conversation. Come on.
That's well,
I
if you
guess.
think about it, well, we went outside and right across in the park right there was a Cass Park, and like that was kind of like our playground. That was no like walk in the park, so to speak. That's in the middle of downtown Detroit and not really a good period. So the reality is the drug addicts, all the worst things you can see, they're right there. They're right there. Like you're in the middle of it, like location wise. The actual middle school was an office building. It took up a floor of an office building. So think about like you go to work and you're like this. That's what we did. And it was a second floor. And it was like one of those like 9 to 5 kind of deals or 8 to 5. It was a little extended school day, the whole thing. It was a big experiment. We were the first guinea pigs for charter school. So I'm going to say they didn't know what they were doing, but they did well with what they were doing with kind of design. You got to start somewhere, right? Like they did a good job, I feel.
Okay, so now you go to this cool high school, and somehow this high school, you don't have to be there the whole day. Tell me about that.
So I don't think that was everybody's experience. I just know that it was mine. So it was called college preparatory, which it's a college preparatory school, which you would think that all high schools are, but that's not necessarily the case. Like at least it wasn't back then. So this one was specifically designed to where people that went to it were supposed to go to college afterwards. So there was a zero tolerance policy on fighting. If you were in a fight, whether you started it, you didn't start it, like you're kicked out immediately. And so it made it a very safe place. And I think it was one of the few, and this is way back when, I don't know what it's like now in Michigan, but this was one of the few schools that, if I'm not mistaken, didn't have metal detectors, because the people that were there, ultimately, if anything happened, you were just kicked out. Zero tolerance, not even asking a question, like your fault, not a fault, whatever, you're just kicked out. So it was actually a really safe school, in my opinion. Nothing really happened on campus, that's for sure, or else you just weren't going to see the campus again, basically. So people took it very seriously. It was college preparatory. They had a bunch of different tracks you could do. They had an art one, a music one, a business one, of course, and I took the business one. And ultimately, I got, in my third year, so 11th grade, I got the opportunity to interview at a firm called, it was Roney and Company originally, and then was bought out by Raymond James and Associates, which is a larger brand that is out there still today. Essentially, it's a brokerage firm for anybody that's not familiar with Raymond James and Associates. So it's a brokerage firm where you go to get, retirement done, insurance, that kind of thing. So I was able to interview for an internship working in their IRA department. I got it. And then, so I spent really my third and fourth year going to the office. So I'd go to school maybe like 2 hours, 3 hours in the morning. I'd get my couple of classes in, then I'd go to the office and it'd be work. So it felt just like you're going to work. So I like to say I started work my maybe third year of high school. I was already in the workforce. But maybe if we go far enough back, remember I was a paid writer.
Right. All of that.
So I went from freelance paid writer to now I'm hitting the big time. I'm working at a brokerage firm.
How did you select the business one out of all those choices? What led you to choosing the business thing, not the art thing or something of that?
I don't know.
Or did you have this money?
No, it was talking to people. So like my counselor, my parents, thinking about like, well, if we think about back then, I think there was a misconception now because, well, there was no digital media like there is today. Obviously there was no social media at this time. So like the concept that of an artist means you're going to be broke. Unless you're one of the very few that are like really good. If you're not really good, you're going to be broke. So there was no, like, even today, like in the day of AI, like technically speaking, you could just have really good taste and not have the tactile skills, and you could put together projects and make something amazing and world changing without being physically able to create art with your own hands yourself. So back then it was just basically like I was told, you want to be an artist, you're going to be broke. And I'm like, I don't want to be broke. That's what led me to say, all right, business, art, I like them both. Let me go business.
What did you think success meant, or what was your view in that, let's say, teenage years of, this is what it means to be successful?
I don't think, take it a step further. I'm talking about survival. I'm not talking about success. I'm talking about, I want to be alive at 21 and I don't want to be in jail. Like we're not talking.
But you had some of entrepreneurial spirit of like money, right?
That's not entrepreneurial spirit. That's survival. Think about it. I'm
Ah,
6 years old. I'm in sixth grade, and a police officer is telling me you're going to be dead or in jail by the time you're 21. That was still a reality. I was still losing friends in high school.
gotcha.
People
So it
around me were
wasn't
still
about,
dying.
it
It's not
was
about
about,
success or a car or this or that. It's about, can I live past that age?
gotcha. Yeah. So this is your
It's
viewpoint.
very different. No, it's
Yeah.
very different because you have to see the surrounding. You don't get to, I'm in a good high school. I'm in a good place, a good middle school, but I'm still in the city. So
Yeah.
what that means is I'm going to play basketball and one day somebody doesn't show up and you find out a week later that they're dead. And you're like, oh,
Oh,
so that's a different, I'm not thinking about success.
yeah. I
I
got
don't even
you.
know what that is. Is that possible?
So you're looking for your ticket to live.
I just want to get to the next year, the next
Gotcha.
summer.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
it. And try to stay out of trouble. And it's a different mindset, right? It's different.
Yeah.
That's why, and I do think a lot of that, rightfully or wrongfully, but fuels my motivation today. And it's not anymore to like be alive, but it's just kind of like hardwired. So people say, how can you do so many interviews? Or how can you, and I know we'll get to that later, but they're like, how can you do this? How you do that? I'm like, man, I could have been digging ditches. Are you kidding me? Where's my next interview, Carolyn?
Yeah. Let's get it done. Okay. And so you have this like ability to now work in an office with other
which is
people
amazing because I didn't know
financial-
anybody. I didn't know
Yeah.
anybody in my neighborhood that wore a suit or tie. I
And
can't
did you
remember
have
a
to wear
single
that
person.
in high school? Going there?
I didn't, but I wore business casual. But no, so
Gotcha.
I didn't
Yeah.
in high school. So I didn't know anybody. I didn't learn how to tie a tie until college.
Mm.
I don't think I had any other tie until college. I remember exactly when I learned how to tie a tie.
Who
And
taught you how? Who taught
it
it?
was, I pledged a fraternity, and in that fraternity, it was called Phi Iota Alpha. And in that fraternity, it was part of the process. And so one of my frat brothers taught me how to tie a tie because I didn't know how to tie a tie. He knew how to tie a tie. His dad went to work and wore a tie, like many others did that
Yeah.
were in college life. That just wasn't my experience. So it was a red tie, and that's the reason why I wear a red tie. That's part
so
of the
cool.
process. So that goes back to, so that fraternity goes back to 1931 in the United States, and further back in Latin America, there's some other ties there. And that's part of it. It's the red tie. So that's why I always wear it. People always ask me that, and I don't usually tell them. And I'm just like, I just like red. But that's the
That's
reason
so
why.
neat. Yeah, that was part of, oh, that's so cool. Okay, so how did you find out about the college that you went to? How did you find out about, because it seemed like that was a pretty selective
I got
institution.
kind of, I got really lucky in all reality. So whatever somebody feels about this topic, I know it can go both ways. So I don't really have a stance, but I'm a product of affirmative action, 100%. My grades were not good enough for me to get into an honors college. So I was a product of it. So whether people are for it, against it, I know it's no longer around and there's all kinds of other things, but hey, I benefited from it. So I went to James Madison College, which was, again, honors college within Michigan State University. It was a great experience. I was highly undereducated to be able to do that, to be in that honors college. But I will say that I had amazing professors that I still remember my very first paper. It was 5 pages on your idea of justice. It was something like that. And I might have wrote 60 pages because I couldn't do it. And the reason why it was so hard to do, and it's still hard to do, is because you couldn't use any resources. Like you couldn't use any, it had to be all your thoughts. You couldn't use any resources. You couldn't quote anything else. It was all your thoughts on what it was. And then that's a hard assignment. And so it really it's how you think is what it comes down to, and how you can articulate an argument, which I was highly underdeveloped on that side. I just didn't understand. I wasn't that educated. So my professors, they took a liking. They saw that I'd work, and I'd just be there. They'd be helping me along the way, and I just keep on working and working. And like I said, I might have wrote, I think she finally accepted, Miss Burgess, off the top of my head was one of the professors' name, and she finally accepted that paper like the last week of class.
Wow.
She worked with me the whole semester. I probably wrote 60 pages. And she worked with me on revision, because she knew. I mean, they could tell. And in retrospect, think about it. You got this 18-year-old kid from the city rougher than ever, like doesn't like fit, not doesn't fit in as in people don't like them. People love me. I was always, God gave me that, whatever that is, to where I could socialize with any group. That never mattered. I was always fine on the social part of things. So I was never an outcast or anything. That's just not part of my story. I was always accepted, even when I shouldn't have been for whatever reason people did. Didn't matter what social scene it was. But that being said, it must have been, in retrospect, looking at me, if I was in my shoes now, seeing this 18-year-old coming in from Detroit, from the southwest side of Detroit, in this honors college, I must have stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
you were willing to do the work and ask for help, though. But where did you get that, right? Because I'm not saying anything about the beautiful humans that live in my household, but some teenagers are willing to ask for help, and other teenagers think they already know it all. So how did you have that desire or ability to just be like, you know what? Help me understand how to do this thing.
Well, I already understood that nobody like succeeds by themselves. That's the benefit of probably being from a rough environment, is that I didn't make it out of that environment by myself. There were many people that allowed me to get out of that environment. Like literally, there were decisions made that I'll never know about that said, hey, no, leave him alone. So I knew that there's a community that's allowing me to rise up and to go to college. So I already knew that you need other people, because you don't make it out of that environment alone, period. It doesn't work that way. So in college, I just kind of, and that's how I see it in business too. Like when I think about different levels and things like that, like I know that you can't do things by yourself. You need people, period.
Yeah.
So every different level of people, even if it's just fulfillment of product nowadays, like if I were talking about my present day business, like I just knew. So I guess maybe being in such an extreme environment, I'm not talking about anybody in your household, but I'm just saying it's a luxury to think that you can do something by yourself. So it can hurt you or help you, but that's a luxury to think that you have the skill or ability to do something by yourself. And maybe you do, maybe you don't. But in my end, that wasn't even a question. It's not even a possibility. You might as well said I was on Mars. And I think that fuels my interview style nowadays, by the way. It's just like, because I don't know. Even when I know something, I mean, I'm trying to draw stuff out. It's just always new to me. You know what I mean? Fuels my
Absolutely.
style.
I love that curiosity, just the ability to ask whatever questions, because how else are you going to learn? Why not ask somebody
That's
who's
true.
been there, done it? Tell me about this idea or desire to travel and go see other places. I know you had that experience
Yeah.
as for some study abroad. And I think I was listening to something earlier about like you were 18 and decided to go to Europe. But like prior to that, had
Oh
you
my
traveled
gosh.
as a family or like
That's a good question. I remember going to like, definitely not internationally. I have a memory. I know I went to Puerto Rico when I was really young. I have a memory, and I met my grandfather once before he passed, but that was like, I was really young. I don't remember that. The only actual memory, I have a vague memory of that, is only actual memory I have from that. How you remember pain? I remember the seatbelt burning my arm because it was so hot. That's it. I was a little guy. I don't remember what age. I'd have to look.
Yeah,
but like I was like
that
5 or
metal
6,
part
like
of, yeah.
young. Like I was young when I went out there. But other than that, I don't know. We might have did a little trip, but I don't think so. Maybe not too much. Definitely not as a family or nothing like that. My dad didn't really travel. He does. He doesn't now either.
So how
So
did you have this desire to even think like, you know what I feel like doing? I feel like being 18 and just going to Europe. How did that
it
come about?
was working at Raymond James. I remember one
Oh,
gentleman, because I had the brokers were all around me. So even like somebody, and you got to think like during that time, it was like 98 to 2000 was the time period. That's before the tech wreck. So back then there was so much money in the market. Anything with a .com was like going up. So you have all these brokers that have money and expense accounts, and all the brokerage firms are making money and this and that. So they'd be coming back from, to me, an exotic trip was going to Chicago. So that
just
was like, they come back and I'd see the receipts for like, oh yeah, I was out there entertaining clients and this and that. And, you know, and they'd have a couple $1,000 receipt from going for like a day or two or something. Back then, money, that's crazy. Like a couple thousand, that
yeah.
might be like 5,000, 10,000 nowadays for the weekend and out there entertaining clients. Again, this was back then. The rules were different, by the way, for everybody listening. When they say that, they're very, very different now, but it was different time periods. Anyway, that was like a miracle. I'm like, man, like to spend that much much money and to have clients entertain it, that was like, you might as well be the president of the United States. You're doing that. So I just always knew that piece of it. And even hearing that people could go somewhere else. And I remember collecting postcards very young, just because I'd be like, wow, that's amazing. Like the fact that somebody could go somewhere. I don't know. I just never went anywhere. So I was like, one day I want to go somewhere. And I just kind of remembered it. I'm like, I definitely want to go somewhere and see things. Because I was very aware that I really didn't know anything. I was aware that my lenses and my growth, like, because again, there was no social media. And obviously I didn't know what would develop with social media. But I just knew that like I didn't know anything. And I knew that the environment I grew up in was pretty backwards. Like, and I knew that certain people had like tape recorders going in their head. And I was aware of my age pretty young. So because I was so aware of my age, I love playing basketball. So if you're playing basketball and you hear these older men talking about the good old days about when they were playing basketball in middle school or high school, I'm like, what? Like, dude, you guys are old. Like, that was the good old days, that game-winning shot in 8th grade? Like, no offense, and I'm not dissing them if that's their memory and if that's what they did. How hard was their life afterwards that was the high point at that moment? You know, I'm not insulting them. I just knew that that's not what I wanted. I was like, there's got to be something else in the world because life is too hard for there not to be something else in the world.
So when was this Europe trip? Was it part of your study abroad, or was it just you on your own in some
combination? There was some stuff planned ahead, and I went and for the first one, and I also wanted to take some Spanish classes and some other things. So some things I got credit for, some things I didn't get credit for, but I knew I just wanted to go. I was like, let's go see what this is because I need to go somewhere. And also I read a lot, remember? So I read about these things. And way later in my life, so let's say in my early 20s, I have a similar feeling where I'm reading the Bible, and this is after college. I already live in Phoenix at this point, or Scottsdale, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm reading the Bible, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, Israel, I guess, because, I don't know, as a Catholic, you grow up, or I speak for myself, I grew up, and when you read the Bible, it almost seems fictional. Like, you don't know, like, Sea of Galilee, like, is this an actual place? Does it still, can you actually see that still? Is that a place?
Yep.
But because it's so fictionalized in my head as a kid, you're reading it since you're a kid, to me, it didn't seem like a real place. So I went, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a real place. It just changes things. Like, so circling back to when I was 18, I'd read stories, I'd seen things, and through books, I'd say I'd seen them or thought I saw them. And I'm like, are these places real? Like, I just wanted to see it. Like, I wanted to see it. And that's what led to I have to get over there.
Gotcha. So you have this desire. It's like an experiential learning. Like, you're learning, and now you want to be part of that and actually be in there. And you're brave enough and willing enough to just do it and go. Now, when you did some of these travels, like, did you go with friends or?
Solo traveler. I was just out there. I didn't know anybody wanted to go to Europe. Just
What
went.
did your mom say? Good, have fun?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They knew. I mean, come on. I survived Detroit. What are you talking about? Well, that's the other part, is that you survived. You're okay. I mean, it's fine.
That's true.
Probably isn't going to be crazier than that. They know. I mean, you have a different sense of danger and where to be, where not to be. So I don't think there was any worry there.
Did you have any go-to favorite prayers?
I don't think so. Mine is a constant conversation. I just talk.
Okay.
I have a normal conversation. It's not pretty.
Yeah. It took me till I was 30-something to realize that I could pause and listen. So before I was just talk. And then somebody had to be like, oh, go to the Blessed Sacrament Chapel, and I don't know what you should do, but just go ask him. And I'm like,
ooh, I like that.
What are you talking about? Ask him. You know, I
do you
showed
do
up
it verbally? Do you do it verbally, ask, or verbal out loud, or do you talk?
kind of like
or
in
do you
my
talk-
head, ask, but then I just have to listen. Do you ever do
So
the
you
listen?
do it in your. I talk out loud.
Oh, that's
if you were
cool.
to come around, I don't know if it's cool. If you were here, you're just like, who's Adam talking to? And now my mom, unfortunately, my mom passed. I'll talk to her out loud too. I'll be like, come on, mom. And what's funny is I have some friends that knew her as well. I'll talk out loud with them to her. I'll be like, Mom, they're picking on me. Come on, get them. And then they'll start talking to her. They'll be like, no, we're not. It's him. You know it is. You can't hide now, Adam. She knows all. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's true.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Imagine what your life would be like if your career aligned with who you are, what you do best, and actually fueled the life you want. At Next Success, We support all ages and stages through career transitions, from students exploring majors or careers to job seekers actively searching or reimagining their next move to professionals committed to self-awareness and leadership growth. Stay connected and explore what's possible at nextsuccesscareers.com and follow Next Success Method on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Okay, so you become this big financial career-related person after college, right? And just immerse yourself in that world. Is it just you just happened into it from doing the brokerage stuff and all of that, and then now you're going to do that thing and work in offices like you had been in? Or what was the draw there? How did it unfold?
I think that was in my subconscious. Like I just went back to that, but I wasn't going there first though. My plan was to become a lawyer. Like that was always the goal. And I was accepted into law school actually. And so, in college you get a bunch of internships, things like that. So one of the notable internships I worked for a lobbyist, which was awesome. They started the Michigan Equine Partnership. So I got to know a little bit about lobbying. Then I worked in the executive office of who the attorney general at that time is named Mike Cox, and awesome experience. I'm like on the top floor and like his office is right down there. And I'm just like, I'm in awe. Like it's a celebrity to me. I'm like, this guy's on TV, like all these other things. Like, I don't know. I'm at the Capitol in the state Capitol. And it was just amazing to me. I'm like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And it was all slated. I was supposed to start in law school right at the Capitol, and then I'd go to college, and then I'd probably work either in politics or something else like there. And that was supposed to be the next step in my career. And I had to wait between, I think there was like a 6 month to 8 months, something like that. Maybe it was a year, wait until starting law school. And during that time, I had a good buddy of mine named Adam. He's also Adam, and he worked at this place called Rock Financial at that time. And that was, if you grew up in Michigan, that was like that was Dan Gilbert, the owner of Cleveland Cavs. He owns the Rock Financial, and now it's known as Rocket, I believe. But it went from Rock Financial to then Quicken Loans, and then ultimately, I think it's Rocket today. And having that first job, I thought I'd be there until law school started. And then something happened. I was good. Like I was real good. And I learned about, and so they had this, I'll take you to the early days. They had this thing where when the phone rang, you would have a bell would go off. And so when the bell went off, whoever picked up the phone got that call. And that was an inbound lead. And so Carolyn, getting back to the old school work ethic, I literally slept there.
Wow.
And I'd go to the gym in the morning and I'd take a shower, stuff like that. I had a house, by the way. I had a house and all that stuff. So it wasn't like I had to, just FYI. It wasn't out of poverty. It was out of
desire to win.
It was competition. It was like I wanted money. I wanted competition. And I think my first after you're done with the training programs, which they had amazing training program. I remember meeting Dan Gilbert in the training class. Absolutely amazing business leader. I've written about him many times in different books that I've written, and he's just awesome. I remember literally sleeping at my desk, one hand on the phone, the other hand on my arm, and that bell rang. I could probably do it today. Rock Financial, this is Adam. How can I help you? I could probably still do it today. And I've signed loan documents at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. because people what I realize is there's service workers, there's other people that like have off hours, and people would be so shocked that somebody answered the phone. And they'd be like, wait, I thought I was going to leave a message. And I'm like, leave a message? We got to get you a loan. What are you calling in so late for? And I'd be, let's get this done right now. So sometimes they'd come back in, like the staff would come back in, my boss, all that. And I'd have a loan doc signed that they didn't even know it was on there. And they'd be like, where'd that come from? I did it last night. They're like, what do you mean you did it last night? So that's the difference there. My first month, long story short, I won, I still remember the name of the Caveman Sales Award. That was the most coveted prize on our team. And for a new person to get it, that was impossible. Like there'd been people that had worked there for years that didn't get it. And so for a new person to get in, I was like I'd say top 1% or something like that of the hires within a certain bracket, because they bracketed them obviously based on new people versus not. So I started we were basically printing money at that time. So that's the key, making a lot of money. I think my first check, I don't remember if it was quite 10,000, but it was close. And that's my first commission out of the training class. So law school kind of got forgot after that when I started thinking about if I work really hard over this, I might start at like 40K. I just made 10K this month.
Gotcha. Gotcha. No. So yeah, so you see this taste
That's
of
back then numbers, by the way. So I'm like, I guess I'm pretty good at this. And then I started going down the sales and the financial route. That's where it began.
And then how did you switch from like one place, or I guess was this where the Israel thing came in after?
No, they switched.
Yeah.
They switched for me. So they went through just bad timing on my end. They call us all in a room at one time, and they say anybody that was hired after this date is going here. Anybody that was hired after this date is going there. So they basically, their future growth was going to be at Quicken Loans, the internet side of things. I was more of a branch banker type of person. I was hired for Rock Financial. So when they moved you to the internet side of things, they basically said, you can have as many leads as you want, but they didn't pay the same amount that they paid on the loans on Rock Financial side. So for the same amount of work, instead of making that 10 grand, it might have been 2 grand. And I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not exaggerating that much. So it basically, and I was just like, well, I don't actually want to be on that side. I like my current compensation. I like the way things are going. And they were like, yeah, we're really sorry. We understand, but we can't make an exception for you. And then it's a whole company-wide shift. It's nothing personal. And so I left. I was like, there's no way. Like, I can't, it just wasn't, it didn't match my strong suit.
Gotcha. So then
I moved to Arizona.
And then you started working. So then you're Vanguard in Arizona.
Well, first, before then, I was American Income Life. So I met a guy. Remember I said I used to sleep at work, basically?
Yeah.
So I would go to, it was either Lifetime Fitness or something like that. I think that was the name of the brand. It's been a long time. So I would go in the morning, every morning, like pretty early, like 5 a.m. and something like that. And when I was in the locker room, I'd always you see the same people. The people that go there early are pretty regimented. They're just a certain type of person that go really, really early. Yeah. And so there's this guy there, and he was recruiting me to work for an insurance company, for his insurance company. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Whatever. He knew where I work. We get to know people over time. And so when I was ready to make the shift, I was like, I think I'm moving out here to Arizona. Do you have an office out there? And so he connected me with them. And they hired me, and then that's where I moved out.
Gotcha. So you still are immersing yourself in this financial services related thing. When did that shift? When did it shift to you wanted more, or what did that feel like? Because you're doing well, being really successful, helping other people be successful.
Well, for me, it was always just about getting to bigger markets after a while. When you're in that game of managing money, it's like getting into bigger markets. So I started in Phoenix and then Scottsdale, and I'm getting my licenses and my skill sets being like honed at this time. So I'm really young in my career. So I'm working with small business owners on retirement plans, things like that. And then once I made the shift to finally get to managing money, then we're going to bigger and bigger markets, which led me to California. And then that would be the eye-opener, and eventually moving to Century City, California. And I like to think of Century City as the little brother, if you will, to Hollywood. So that's where all the people that actually are doing the deals. So if we're talking about like the lawyers, the agents, that's where they're all located. And that's where my practice was. And that's ultimately where I launched my own firm before getting into the media side of things.
Got you. And so at that point, is that what you thought success looked like? Was being somewhere in California working with all the because it was you went from survival to now you're in California. This amazing place.
That was crazy. I still remember the first time that I drove like to Century City, and I'm going like in the heart of Beverly Hills, and I'm seeing all these mansions. For people that live here, they take it for granted. They're like, oh yeah, that's just Beverly Hills or whatever. They don't know. For me, I'm like, what is this place? My eyes are like wide open. I'm like the Beverly Hillbillies, like old school TV. I'm like straight from the Midwest. I don't care. Googly eyed. I'm not ashamed. I'm not too cool for that. They're too cool out here. They'd be like, oh, not me. It's okay. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? So no, I think at that point, as I got further along, I realized that I didn't know what I didn't know. Like to me, I thought that the ultimate goal was that financial advisor life. Then what I learned was that there probably wasn't too much of a hockey stick in that for me. So, and the hockey stick, for anybody listening to that doesn't know that term, just think of it like growth. Like there's different ways that something can grow. And, you know, you hear about like founders, things like that, like maybe a business grows really fast and then it just starts going up, like the growth curve starts going up like the end of a hockey stick. Well, for me, I didn't really see that. It was kind of it was really a add a client, add a client, add a client.
Yeah.
It was really a persistent, at times drudgery of a process of trying to add another client and grow the number of assets that you're managing. But I didn't really see any hockey stick there. So when media came around and I realized what was happening with social media and I kind of saw the future of branding and entertainment, or at least I thought I did, which some things I was right about and continue to be right about, and some things I was wrong about. But that's where I saw, I was like, okay, this is probably a more interesting game if I'm going to be playing one, because I didn't have the skill set of what I learned in retrospect is that because I started so, let's just say, so low on the totem pole, to me, the ultimate goal was being that financial advisor guy. And for any financial advisors out there, I hope you don't take this wrong with what I'm about to say, but you understand this depending on where you're at and on that totem pole. What I didn't realize, though, the guys that were making the real money and the real finance guys were the investment bankers and the people that were doing M&A and doing all these other things. If I would have had that type of understanding as a kid, I would have started on that path doing that when I was younger. I just didn't know. Like, to me, the ultimate was, but I didn't have those influences. I didn't have that understanding. I didn't have that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, from your
Yeah.
viewpoint of what you could see, that looked
Mhm.
like it. And then you realize, oh, I actually want more.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and maybe that wasn't like, yeah. And not only that, but it wasn't what you thought it was.
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't what you thought it was. So it's a good living. Don't get me wrong. You make a lot of money if that's your goal, by the way. That's not everybody's goal. But for me, the purpose side of it too was that it wasn't the way I made more money was by having less clients that had more money, that were wealthier. My impact was kind of like I was talking to less people daily to make more money. And so my impact was a little bit different, and they didn't really align. I'm like, do I really want to be this? It just didn't align with what I wanted to do.
So how were you just, so you had the money side that's kind of coming good, and you're realizing you want more impact. Where was that coming from? Where was that desire wanting to impact more lives?
When I started my very, very first, it is a show technically, and it was. And for the people that asked me to bring it back, I will call it that. But this is way back when on Periscope. We had this, which was a streaming platform for everybody that doesn't know what that was. That was a while ago. And I think Twitter bought them and then ruined it, whatever, which is X. And they ruined it. But it used to be a streaming platform you turn on, and then when it was on your phone, this is early days, and anybody around the world could find you and they could watch your stream. And so what I did was I started this show called The Gratitude Show. And literally all I did, there wasn't two-way communication like this with like video. All I did was I would ask them, what are you grateful for? That was it. And then like, what are you grateful for? And people would write in the comments and I'd read it. And so it became this thing where there'd be like thousands of people just sitting and all I'd be saying is, what are you grateful for? Tell me what you're grateful for. Carolyn, what are you grateful for today? And it became like this thing that people were plugging into, and it was just amazing. And I'd hear the most amazing stories. I remember hearing this woman talk about being like the first woman programmer in like Saudi for her particular area, going through this program she did and being like so proud and sharing when she got her certificate. And I would give people these gratitude missions where I just tell them like randomly, like, okay, today what I want everybody to do is text somebody that you love and just tell them, hey, you're grateful for them and you're glad they're in your life. Send it cold. Don't say anything else. Just say that. And then the next day when I did it, I'd go, fire up the old stream. I'd get like messages back on what would happen. And I remember one guy like being like,
That's
oh my
nice.
gosh, my wife was like, it brought her to tears. Like she says that she don't remember me ever saying that to her in our entire marriage. And it was like the most amazing thing. Thank you. So people started really leaning in, and I still have followers on Twitter and people that check in on me from those early days. Like we made real connections. So I just saw what was possible. I got scared because I was like, whoa, what is this? I didn't really understand what I was doing, but I was still doing it. And so I just kind of knew. I was like, there's just more things out there. And I didn't know what it was, by the way. I'm not claiming I had any like good plan. I just knew.
You just kept it sounds like you just keep doing like one step after the other, try it out. Like this.
Don't we all though?
Like
if reality?
Yes, I do think so. But I think that some people are more fearful and they let the fear of what if I do it wrong hold them back. Where I think that you're like, if I do it wrong, I'm going to learn from it. So like there's both of the mindsets, and some are like so calculated. So like, I have to get this right. I have to
Mm.
plan out and record 50 episodes before I release one. And I'm like, I said I'm
Oh
going to
my
have a
gosh.
show. I'm going to record it.
Done.
And I guess I'm releasing it today. You know, like just because I'm like, I got to do something in order to get better.
Done.
Yeah. So how did you go from this? How did you go from, did you like dial one down while you were dialing one up? You know, this whole
Yeah.
media side. When did you switch from, okay,
Mm.
I'm no longer going to take your money from this financial
Yeah.
side? Yeah.
Well, speaking of doing one thing, like I can only kind of do one thing well, I feel like. So that's just in my mind, I mean, some people may have that Elon Musk gene where they can just do all these projects, all these things. I
think they have
don't, I
help.
wasn't. God didn't give me that one, but even just to manage it and to be able to have that, you know what I mean? People get
Yeah.
credit, but there's still somebody at the helm. There's still pressure.
Yeah.
And there's other things at play. So both were kind of growing at the same time, and they're both doing their thing. And I'm praying and I'm talking to God and I'm telling him, you know what? I'm looking for guidance here because they're both growing. I couldn't short either of them. The people that were my clients on the media side, they needed my attention, but then the people obviously who are trusting me with their assets to manage their future, like that's a huge responsibility and connection. So I couldn't really do both. So I'm praying on it. And I still remember the story. I'm going to bed one day. I just moved into a new place and I put everything away and I have everything packed away except from all of my certificates. And all of my certificates, so my Series 7, my Series 6, my CFP, like all these different certificates. And so those are still on the floor in my office. And I'm going to bed, and I remember going to bed. I still remember the words. And so I'm saying, all right, God, you don't have to part the Red Sea or anything, but I need you to tell me what to do because I don't know. So I go to bed, and I wake up the next day. I put my feet on the ground, and I'm in water. And I'm like, what? And all right, so I think I'm still sleeping, Carolyn. I think I'm still sleeping. Like, I'm not kidding. I'm like, all right, this is weird. All right. But I remember that flashing in my head, like what I said before I went to sleep. I'm like, all right, God, you don't have to part the Red Sea. I remember this. And I'm like, so then I try to go back to sleep and my feet are still feeling wet. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm awake. And then I'm like, but I'm wet. And I was so confused. And so then I go to stand up and I'm like, yeah, I'm standing in water. I'm like, okay. And I still have this flash in my head of telling God, you don't have to part the Red Sea. So I turn on the light and I look down because it's like right below the light switch to my left. And I see all of my certificates are like ruined. And I'm like, and I took a picture of this. So I still have this picture. Maybe that's going to be a book cover one day. So how to change, how to transition. So I just took all of the certificates. I threw them in the trash right that moment. And I took a picture of them in the trash. So I have that still. And I was like, all right, God, thank you. You're a little dramatic. You had to ruin the floor and like all this. I said you didn't have to part the Red Sea. But then on the other end of things, I know I'm a little hard-headed. So I'd have blamed you and been wishy-washy if you had. These are my normal conversations with God, by the way. That's how we talk.
But did you feel like comforted in that moment too?
Heck no. I was eternally scared. I'm like, what the heck? No, because identity. One is, it was my identity since I was essentially a teenager. Think about it. Like, so I'm 16 at my first brokerage firm. So people have me as this like finance guy, whatever. Now, all of a sudden, I knew I was going to lose my entire peer group, like period. My entire peer group, not because it's their fault or they don't like me anymore, but when you're in finance, if you're not in finance or if you're not in that ecosystem, you're out. You're out. That's just the way it works. So I knew I'd lose my entire peer group pretty quickly. So it was literally like starting a new life all over again. And I knew that that was what was going to happen. I didn't know it would be on the other side of it. And I knew that that's also like, oh, okay, so you're going from this and now you want to be a host and a media guy? Like, come on. How cliche can this be? Midwest guy moves from the Midwest to LA to to get in media. Come on.
Yeah. And I mean, couldn't it be you could always just go and re-get your certifications if you wanted? Like you had that fail safe. Was that like a backup plan? Like if this doesn't work, then
it sounds good to say that, and I might have told myself that, but the reality of it is you don't accidentally build hundreds of millions of dollars in assets under management. Like it's not like, oh, by the way, I got my licenses again. Do you want to invest with me again? Nah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So you're still competing, and now you got a blip on your resume too. You're like, so let's say you did try and go back. So what have you been doing the last couple of years?
went to media.
Well, I tried to become a host and it didn't work out. So can I manage your money? I mean, it's just not a good story.
Got you. Okay, but what you did
So
make
I'm
is
back
a
to
good
this.
story.
So I'm back
So
to
you
this.
go all in, certificates in the trash.
Yeah, that was tough. And then I don't really know. I still don't know what I'm doing as a host, by the way, or in media. So all that's not figured out. This is early. So we had like a book, maybe two out there. It's not like this is like a huge cash cow or anything like that. We had a ton of demand to come on the show. So at this time period, I'm doing about 70 interviews a week on average. So 70 for everybody that's listening to that. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to start a show, but I don't do your show. It's fine. You don't have to do 70 episodes. Do one a week and you're good. It's okay. You'll be okay. But my record's 91 in a week. So
Wow.
all I knew was that we had demand to go on the show. And I knew that the more people I interviewed, the more people that would know who I was at the very least. Whether anybody listened to it yet, who knows? But I just knew that I'd be extending the network. And I know that by doing my current average is anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 episodes a year. So and my catalog's over 6,000 episodes now. So all I know is if I do 40 years of content every year, which that's basically what I do, then maybe I'll get better. I don't know if I've gotten better yet, but I'm still young. I got years to go still.
People pay you and you get to travel to all kinds of great places all over the world to tell their stories.
That's true. That's true. And if you're listening, I will accept your money, especially if you think I'm good. If you don't think I'm good, then I'll still accept your money and help me get better. Help me get better. It's fine. I'm not going to get better if you don't give me more swings at bat. Hire me.
So your overarching platform now is Mission Matters, and then you have different sub things. So tell us a little bit about, how you do that, how you make this Mission Matters.
So our team, definitely without the team. So it's the structure of the company and the way I'm able to do what I do is really based on all of our team. So the way we're set up is I spend about 70% of my time in front of camera or behind the microphone doing interviews or giving interviews, whatever the case may be, depending on the week. And then the rest of the time, the other 30%, I spend my time running the company as CEO. But all of our different profit centers have their own executives that's in charge of that and make sure that things are happening. They're brilliant people, many they're better than me at business in many cases. And so we have one side of it's our podcast agency, and that where we produce shows for individuals. We've launched over 250 shows now. We have our publishing side. We've published over 400 authors. We have a PR side where we help individuals with their PR, obviously, and getting placements in magazines and tier 1, tier 2 news outlets. Event side of things, we do quite a few events. We do 50 plus events, and that's just the ones that we're hosting. If you count the ones that we're partnering with other people and things like that, geez. I feel like in 2026, we probably did over 100 events if you're counting the ones we partner with people and other things like that. And then, so it's all kind of, I won't claim that this was all by design. What it was by, and the lesson in all of this it was in listening to our audience. Like, that's it. So the people in our core audience was the people that run the show. Like, even I'll give you one example, launching the podcast agency and being in that business. During COVID, we started, a lot more people had time on their hands and more people wanted to launch shows. So I'd be interviewing somebody. It could be this simple. Have you on the show, Carolyn? And then you're like, all of a sudden, like, hey, you know what? I've been thinking about launching a show. And so it was like, we weren't even in that business really. And then people started asking, and it took me back to like the early book days. I wasn't trying to launch books. It was, people asked me, and I eventually said yes. So I eventually said yes to this because we had some, editors and people with some bench time. And now fast forward, we launched over 250 shows. So it wasn't kind of like the normal of like, oh, we want to be in this market. We did all this research. We did a business plan. We did this. It was like, no, I was just listening to somebody that very simply, rudimentary, was like, hey, could you help me with this? And I'm like, yes, we can help you with this. And that was the seed of it. And then it grew from there.
How do you take time for yourself or your own, like, what do you do for a break? Because it's like you went from this work. Oh, pick up the phone in the middle of the night to now it seems like, I don't know if you're doing all that many, like.
No, it's worse. It's worse now than then.
Like,
no.
Yeah.
God's still working on me. I don't know, really. God's still working on me. I don't everything the thing is that even when something's supposed to be a break, it turns into something else. I can't help it. It just
Yeah.
does. And I'm capable and people see I'm capable. And then I've gotten much better at putting together teams and other things like that. So when I do this, and this is kind of what is somewhat misunderstood, I think, about what I'm doing is for some people, and I've heard this before because they think it's like about me sometimes because I'm in front of camera and I put out so much content, but we're not actually an influencer type brand. And then just to give you an example of how you know we're not, and I'm not just saying this, is the goal and the aim has never been to get more people to know who I was or to say, hey, look at me. If it was, by the way, then all the money we make, we would put into advertising, into other things that would allow more people to know who I was. It's simple. Like, it's not that complicated. No, but what we invest in is we invest in infrastructure and things to produce and to get to fulfill our mission. Myself and the other co-founders, Shirag Sagar, is to amplify the stories of others. So I might be leading from the front by putting out this content, but ultimately our aim and our goal is to inspire others to get in the game and to make their own content. Like, so
Yeah.
that's fulfilling our mission. So what happens is things start for fun and then they turn into business. I'm going to give you an example and you're not even going to believe it. Well, let's look back at just one quick one to pull from the earlier story. The music thing. Music comes in, it's fun, it's this, it's that. Now I'm selling t-shirts. What?
Right.
Comic books. I'm collecting them for fun, and then all of a sudden now I'm selling them. All these different things. That's just what tends to happen. I don't know. Maybe I got a little Persian in me somewhere down the line in the blood. I don't know. Like I was supposed to. If I was in Genghis Khan's, I've been on the Silk Road hawking something. I don't know. So here's an example, because my friends give me grief for what you're talking about, by the way. They'll be like, well, what do you do for fun or this or that? And I use this example with my personal friends. I'm like, all right, if I was a musician and if I was playing guitar and I was like this great guitarist, and would you ask me, what do I do for fun? You wouldn't. You'd be like, oh, you play music. You're a rock star. You're a guitarist. You're this, you're that. Just because podcasting isn't as cool or doesn't sound as cool to people, and it's like, for them, it's work. It's like, I'm like playing my instrument. This microphone
loving
is
it.
my
Yeah.
instrument. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm loving it, but it's my calling. Like
Gotcha.
sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I don't think the guitarist or the rock star doesn't always love being a rock star. There's a lot of drawbacks to it, I'm sure. Not that I know that, but there is, because there's drawbacks to everything.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't ask them that. So that's where I'm at. So then what happens is I'm talking about like, oh, what do you do for fun? What do you do for fun? I'm like, all right, well, and I remember doing a big deep dive on this. And I'm like, what do I do for fun? What do I do for fun? And then I'm like, okay, the one thing that I do that is considered for fun only is I watch a lot of movies. So if you go to, like, I see pretty much most movies that come out in theaters. So if you go to like my Instagram, you'll see like there's a movie little thing there. And I set up this little silly, I can't even make this up, Carolyn. I set up this little silly like Instagram handle. It's Adam Rating, and I rate movies. And so
That's
what's
cool.
funny about that is I did it completely for fun, and I do my first little story on it. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, then people start asking questions. So then I had to create the account. Then I had to create the rating system, 5-star, 4-star, and I had to do all this. And here's the funny part. So then I start rating and I put the story up, but then Regal starts, so that's my movie theater by me, that's my home court. Regal starts retweeting my stories. I'm actually selling freaking movie tickets, Carolyn. People are like DMing and sending me and saying, no, hold on, it gets funnier. So then that starts growing. I did this interview with this. So her name is Michelle, and she's the owner of MAM Studios, and she's been in TV and all that kind of stuff for a long time. I interviewed her a long time ago. She just literally told me, this is maybe a month, not even a month ago, a couple weeks ago now, to be there for this premiere because she put the clip of our interview in one of her projects coming out at this film festival. So now I'm going to be on the big screen at that Regal. And what that's going to spin into, I already know, because now we're getting some inquiries and some other things like that. I'm going to be in some freaking movies or something ridiculous. And I'm like, I didn't even say I was doing all that. This was supposed to be just for fun. So that fun is going to turn into opportunity, money, networks, whatever. It's all, a whole infrastructure is already developing. And that was for fun. And we'll see what happens next. I didn't ask for any of that.
This
It's
is
really-
the recurring theme. The fun thing becomes the business,
That's-
becomes the, and it grows you
That's
even
God.
more.
That's God.
So
That's God, though. All of this was God. Like, I didn't, you see, there was no, like, there wasn't any huge business plan. I didn't say, oh, I want to be in the movie business, or, oh, I want to, none of that. Like, oh, I want to be in the podcast business, even that. No, I didn't say any of that.
So how do you define success now, or what would you say is authentic success for you?
I enjoy providing opportunity for others. I think that's the cool part. I don't want to say it's the wrong way, but I feel like, God kind of helps some people be capable for certain things, and other people have other gifts in other ways. I get pleasure out of providing opportunity for others. Like when I think about even like this whole Regal thing and all this, the way I see it is if that profit center grows and that becomes a thing, that's more jobs for others. That's an ability to allow other people to live in their light and in their calling, whatever that is. Like that's providing opportunity, because Hollywood's hurting right now. Hollywood's hurting. There's a lot of people unemployed. There's a lot of very talented people that are still trying to figure out some things in the shift. So if I am to be a part of that in some way, and that's God's plan, then, and I can provide, jobs and opportunity and eyeballs or whatever else is needed, because I don't know what's needed yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll do another interview in a couple of years. We'll be like, Carolyn, I told you they weren't going to let me have any fun. Now that silly little accountant, now they're making me.
That's awesome, though. I love it because you're continuing to spread your mission and allowing others' voices to be heard and to be having their use. And, we're all made on purpose for purpose only we can do. The fun thing is figuring out what that is and staying open to possibilities. So I think you've done an amazing job of just continuing to evolve and adapt with the things that you're called to do and to help other people live out their mission for sure. So how do people find you? Your Instagram, I'll put links in the show notes.
Yeah, easy one is Instagram, Ask Adam Torres. And that's just the really easy one. And there's a link in that link tree there. So you can see all kinds of things, the podcast, the website. We give away more free content than I believe any other company of our size on the planet. So you can just check it out. Instagram, Ask Adam Torres. And if you want, that book's coming out in November. If you want a copy of that, so 1 billion podcasts, all you have to do is just send me a DM and just put 1 billion podcasts, and we'll get you a copy completely free, no strings attached, nothing else. My aim and goal with that book is I want to inspire others to get in the game and to create their own content as well, whether it's a podcast or whatever they feel called to do. So that's the thesis of the book, is that there's going to be 1 billion podcasts one day, and I want everyone to get in the game.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for telling more of your story, for sharing
This
all
was fun.
your time and wisdom. And let's see how this develops. I can't wait to see what you do next. And just share it even more. So appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being on Your Next Success.
Oh, appreciate it. Your Next Success. If you didn't hit that subscribe button yet, I don't know what you were waiting for. You better hit that subscribe button to Your Next Success. And thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it so much.
Adam, thank you for your honesty, your hustle, and your reminder that curiosity plus consistency can reshape an entire life. For Adam, fun was never just fun. Comic books, action figures, airbrush shirts, gratitude live streams, movie reviews, each one became a doorway into business, service, and eventually a global media platform focused on sharing other people's missions. If you're still listening, remember to follow Your Next Success on your favorite podcast platform. Share this episode with someone who sees the world differently and needs to know it's a gift. And leave a quick review so that these conversations reach more people who are ready to explore their next success. Thanks for listening to Your Next Success with Dr. Carolyn Sangal. Remember, authentic success is yours to define and includes aligning your career to support the life you want.